Is there somebody here who doesn't understand English? Pardon?
בעברית. יש פה מישהו שלא מבין אנגלית?
Thank you. When I was outside in the rain just now, I remembered, and I was thinking, of course, of ancestors, and I remembered a group, it was a singing group from the 60s or 70s or 80s, I don't remember, but a long time ago, a group of black women, and they were called Sweet Honey in the Rock. It's a great name. I went for the name first. Sweet Honey in the Rock. And all their songs were about connection to the earth, connection to ancestors. And actually, I wrote a few of the lines from their song because it was in my head when I was preparing this, but I didn't know that I would use it. But they said, listen more to things than to beings. Mm-hmm. It's the ancestors' breath. The fire's voice. It's the ancestors' breath. The voice of the water. It's the ancestors' breath. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees, in the groaning woods, in the crying grass, in the moaning rocks. This is the voice of our ancestors. Remember that name, Sweet Honey in the Rock. Oh, I need it? Okay.
When the mouth is sideways.
Baruch tells me that my voice is very loud. Hello? Okay. So, I would like to continue speaking mainly about our spiritual ancestors, in our history, in our consciousness, and in the patterns that determine our future, how our future will unfold. And they are maybe not mystical beings, they can be a teacher from our kindergarten, or family members, or religious mentors, not religious, even people we have never met, but they have touched our lives in some way or another. And like in that song of the Sweet Honey in the Rock, they may not even be animate, that we know of. We might discover that they are because we're discovering new things every day. And a lot of we see this in ancient cultures. And there's a priest in Ireland who left the priesthood and he got involved in Buddhism. But he wrote poems about ancestors, and they rarely included humans. He was talking about the nourishment of the earth. What protection our ancestors gave us. The nourishment of the earth, the clarity of light, and the fluency of the ocean. And of course, these are all elements that we have in us. I mean, we were meeting some rain outside, but we're 80% water ourselves, so we forget that, when we're out there. We're afraid to get another drop. So it's really wonderful to be here today and to share with you our connection and our reverence for our ancestors, blood and spiritual, and to express our gratitude for the gifts they have bestowed, even if they were not always perfect. They're just like us, but they have provided us with gifts that we sometimes have to look for to see, and showing us the way to transformation and how we can shape the future of our descendants They are not merely figures in the past, but they're alive in their present through their transmission and teachings. And we are their continuation. It is our responsibility. I like to see myself as like one of the flowers, maybe a small blue one, pink one, or part of an orchestra, vast orchestra of life, and I have to find my own voice. Our spiritual teachers show us the way, but we have to find our voice in us. And I asked people to bring something of their ancestors. I don't think many people did, but I brought two of Thich Nhat Hanh, because I see him as one of my spiritual ancestors. He was our ancestor even when he was alive, and he used to say that. And in his talks, and in the book, The Art of Living, which is translated into Hebrew by Hagit and Osnat, it's a wonderful translation. He gives a kind of a holistic view of our existence, emphasizing our interconnectedness of life without boundaries. Our bodies beyond the human body, including our spiritual body. And maybe this is why I was attracted to this topic today, ancestors, because we seem to think that we are bound. Bound in thought, and bound in ideas, and bound in our bodies. Anyway, I hope this won't bore you, but I find this very interesting. At one of these talks he talked about, and in the book also I think, about our 8 bodies. The human body, which carries within it the stars, the moon, the universe, and the presence of all our ancestors. The Buddha body, it doesn't have to be a Buddha, but it's an awakening body, our capacity to be awake and fully present, to be understanding, compassionate, loving. Our spiritual practice body, this is all of the spiritual practices and insights that have brought me healing. The community body, the Sangha, a source of support and a place of refuge. The body outside the body, the ways that our practices and actions are non-local and used by others. There's a wonderful talk by Sister Chanduk, Annabelle, on the non-local bodies. The cosmic body, we are inside the earth, and the earth is inside us. In every moment of our lives, the cosmos is going through us, renewing us, and we are returning to the cosmos. The continuation body, the words and actions that influence the world and have a long-lasting impact on others. And the ultimate body, beyond appearance and signs, the true nature of the cosmos, which cannot be described in notions, words, or signs. This is gone into in more detail we did it here, the 3 doors of liberation, some time ago it was here in Neve Shalom, yeah. I remember it because I spoke on signlessness, so it is very alive in me at the moment. So Thai's continuation, and maybe the continuation of other mentors that came into our lives, are very alive in us and very real. And I think that our presence here today, coming here today to listen to this topic and accompanying one another in being connected to our ancestors is part of his continuation. And I feel here his spiritual practice body, his community body, his continuation body, and his cosmic body. They're all here. And so it is for all of us. We shouldn't look at others and see what they have and what we don't have. We like to compare and put ourselves down. We mightn't have found it yet, not all of them, but they're there. In Plum Village and in, I think, all schools of Buddhism, there's an ongoing daily practice or weekly practice of taking the 5 remembrances as an object of meditation. No chance to escape death, no chance to escape ill health. We're bound to lose everybody that we have ever loved. Everybody we love is going to change, we cannot control it. And the 5th one is our legacy, what we leave behind. The only thing we leave behind is the impact of our words, our actions, and our thoughts. And he stresses that thoughts are actions. So I think that working with this meditation of the 5 remembrances, Hyde calls it meditation on non-fear. It helps us to get in touch with the 3 doors of liberation, with emptiness, signlessness, and aimlessness. So I like Hyde's message because it always is that we are so much more than our bodies. It just resonates with me. We are life without boundaries. And we are creatures who have been blessed with the capacity for dignity and grace and abounding insights, not only for thoughtlessness and cruelty. And our spiritual ancestors are in us to light the way. Another practice that Plum Village has developed to reconnect, help us reconnect with our ancestors is touchings the earth, the touchings of the earth. And we will practice it today after lunch. Efrat will lead us in this practice. And they help us to embody and understand the characteristics of all of our ancestors, and also all of those people who are living in the world today. They are also in us, in every cell of our body. There are a lot of Buddhist stories about ancestors, but we would need a retreat to go through them. But some of them focus on the hungry ghost realm. Thousands of hungry ghosts that we create every day through our thoughtlessness. They're hungry to be seen, hungry for understanding, hungry for love. And even if we offer them our care, we have to be very careful how we offer it, because they have been so misunderstood and feeling so victimized that they are not able to receive it. And they are described as people with thin, narrow throats and a huge belly. So they are never able to be filled. Yeah. And they're not only the ones that are dead, are around us. They're also buried in thousands of unmarked and forgotten graves all around the world, victims of ideologies and greed. They're not remembered, and they're unknown. So, feeding the ghost ceremonies, I've taken part in a few. We have taken part in a few. Anybody who has been to Plum Village has taken part in them probably. In the early years, they used to have ceremonies for feeding the hungry ghosts. It was kind of offerings of symbolic food and chanting and prayers. And there was one that used to take place in Upper Hamlet, yeah. There was a wall there where, after the World War II, local population shot some local people who they felt had not been behaving as they should have during the Nazi era. And there was a tremendous feeling of guilt and shame in that area among the people. And also it was almost felt in the place. There was an energy. And this place was transformed. And another one is a large transformation, or a huge transformation that took place over many years, is in the European Institute of Applied Buddhism. I call it EAB, from EIAB, in Germany. I had a dream of transforming the generational suffering in Europe throughout the years of war, and for many years he looked for a place where this symbolic transformation could take place. And they found, Plum Village found and bought this huge house in Germany, in Wartburg. It's really a massive construction. It feels a bit like I thought of Mussolini when I was there somehow or another. There's these columns and guys with flying blonde hair on the backs of horses and thing. And there's a big Buddha looking down on the balcony over all of this. But this was a psychiatric hospital. It's a really long, it can be written a book about it in itself. But over the years, about before the Nazis came to power, in the 30s, about 700 actually. 700 patients were relocated. And that is a euphemism. They were left to die, and they weren't actually killed, most of them, but they were left in circumstances where they died. And a lot of them were relatives of people from the area. So in the early years, I think it was bought in 2008, the monks and the people who came to visit found the place very oppressive. They couldn't sleep at night. They had nightmares. It was a really dark place. And with constant meditation, with these practices of feeding the hungry ghosts, working on transformation, the place feels very, very different today. So I think that our energy and our power can do much more than we think it can. Am I going to branch into something else a little bit? I cannot help it. I come from kind of a world of science. That was my background before I got involved in other things. And it kind of colors my life. It's it shapes the way I think. And I've had to change the way I think, because what I learned in physics 50 years ago is not what is being taught in physics today. So we have to be very flexible, and actually I'm very much in tune with what we learn from quantum physics today. First of all, that humans are primarily an empty space. I think I saw somewhere once that I think if we took out all of the air from the space from humans, I think we would, I don't know how many of us would fit into a sugar cube or something like that. I read, I mean, But anyway, it's really incredible. That we're composed of vibrating energy fields and particles like quarks and electrons, forming atoms that create the illusion of solidity through electromagnetic forces. So our substance is kind of cosmic relics from the stars, a dance of quantum fields manifesting as matter and energy. So somehow or another it seems to make sense to me. According to scientists, our consciousness interacts with the quantum world, meaning that it is a part of it. And this helps to explain why we talk about our consciousness being able to continue after the human body no longer exists. So if we're made up of subatomic particles, which is energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. I mean, that's what I learned 50 years ago, and that hasn't been changed yet. It can only be converted from one form to another. So our ancestors' consciousness can still exist. It's just there in another form, if we're able to be available for it. So the Buddha talked about the importance of our actions, our thoughts, our energy on the world 2,600 years ago, and he didn't even have a microscope. He had nothing. It was just with his mind. And today, so much of what he taught is now proven scientifically, so we can believe it now. Yeah. And so we have an impact on reality. We leave an imprint. Our thought, our word, our deed, our look. We know ourselves when we come into a room where we can feel positive energy, negative energy, even from one person to another. They may say the nicest words, but we know, we can feel the dissonance, that their energy is not transmitting the same energy. So, just as our footsteps leave an imprint, so do our thoughts. And so do we receive the imprints of our ancestors. So we are kind of walking around in a storehouse of cultural wisdom. We haven't yet developed a quick fix so that we can put up an antenna and just absorb it all. But it's in us. No. Okay, thank you. So I think the bell is reminding me of time.
No, not at all.
No?
No. Only a bell between. Sir?
No. So this wisdom is our inheritance. And we really, maybe this is why I was thinking so much about ancestors these days. We really only know where to go when we know where we are, when we know where we're from, where we're coming from, when we recognize our roots and our lineages, spiritual, blood, and land ancestry. There's also this third lineage in Buddhism. They talk about it quite a lot. So every culture has its own way of honoring ancestors or not. And we saw in Germany, in Iyab, how the memory and the legacy of the blood of spiritual ancestors are continued and are transformed. We're constantly transforming memories,
as individuals and collectively. And can we see how this is being played out in our own land? Acknowledging reality, recognizing suffering, generational suffering in all beings. And we forget that we're just going through, passing through, we're just stewards, we're just caretakers. We're not owners. I go back to a time when he says that if we look into the cell of our body, or one cell of our consciousness, we recognize all the presence of all the generations in us. Not only human beings. He reminds us constantly that we were other species. And we carry so much of them in us. They're present in every cell of our body and mind. And we are a combination and a continuation of this stream of life. This we might be able to understand when we look at it and look at ourselves. But this is a consciousness that we should take with us whenever we meet anybody. Everybody else is a combination of this wonderful stream of life. They deserve respect.
It reminds me of the Bodhisattva Sariputta, the Bodhisattva who used to go around bowing to everybody saying, "You have the capacity to be a Buddha, you have the capacity to be a Buddha." He annoyed people so much that they used to beat him up. But it's something that we should remember, even if we don't say it to everybody. Yeah. I talked a lot about, not a lot, but anyway, I talked about our words and our speech and our actions and the responsibility we carry and the accountability we should have for what we do. I know we all fail. We're all human. We fail. But as Thai says, while we're alive, everything is possible. Now, instead of beating ourselves up, we think, well, from here, where do I go? And of course, in our practice, meditation is a very, very important practice in allowing us to look inwards and to embody and learn the lessons from what we go through in our daily tasks. We don't have time very often to absorb, to digest what's happening to us at the moment. But our moments when we sit with ourselves in meditation are it's like a support for mindfulness, or mindfulness is support for the meditation. They go hand in hand. And I came across a saying, a Hindu teacher, which I like. He said, the purpose of meditation is so that our soul learns how to be stretched over the cosmogenic abyss while we do our daily tasks. It's a wonderful image to hold, that our hearts and minds are holding the vastness of everything
while we're washing the floor or washing the dishes. Thai also used a lot of images and metaphors that help us to absorb easily the most complex reasonings in Buddhism and philosophies. And he uses the tea, the making the tea ceremony is a big part of life in Plum Village. Everybody has their little teapot and everybody has their little sacks of tea. But he conveyed his teachings, and many teachings, through the making of the tea, the drinking of the tea, the looking at the tea, seeing the cloud in the tea. And one which resonated with me, and I think about it often, nearly every day. He said, the leaves that remain after making the tea are only a very small part of the tea. The tea that goes into me is a much bigger part of the tea. It is the richest part. And we are the same. Our essence is going into our children, our friends, and the entire universe. And we have to find ourselves in those directions and not in the spent tea leaves. I think we all have in us an aspiration. I mean, also this is why we're here. An aspiration to go beyond our conditioning and our culture and our ancestors. And our spiritual ancestors have shown us the way, have given us tools. I see it in other forms of life. I see it in technology. I see what my grandchildren, who are a quarter my age, can do with computers and with their phones and in a language that they don't even really understand. So I know that we have incredible possibilities within us. So it may be worth our while to pay some more attention to our spiritual bodies, the various aspects that we don't see clearly. Because we have an innate wisdom. We have this aspiration, and we really want to do things differently. And we have an innate wisdom in us that we really should cease. We should stop nourishing conditions which we know are creating confusion and sorrow and suffering. So this is where our practice helps. It's a process. And Baruch asked earlier, what kind of an ancestor will I be? I came across this phrase first about, 10, 15 years ago, here in this room, at a workshop on Joanna Macy, who is also one of our ancestors. We have had many, many teachers who have left this form in the last 2 or 3 months. And Joanna Macy is one of them, a wonderful, wonderful teacher. But coming back to Thai, he says we do not need to die to be an ancestor. So, or we don't even have to wait till tomorrow to be an ancestor. Because in every moment we are producing a continuation of ourselves. And we are also affecting, in some way or another, the continuation of every single person we come into contact with and not only those that we come into contact with, because we have no idea of how far this energy ripples out. Every now and again we get a reminder in some way or another of some incredible miracle or something very strange that happened. But it's like, if you're not available for it, it's not happening. It's like, I was just talking in our Sangha about hearing a nightingale sing and how incredible it was, and I'll never forget it. I mean, hundreds of nightingales, thousands of nightingales sing all the time, birds sing all the time. I just wasn't available to hear it. But at that particular moment, I was, and it has stayed with me for years, because I was just in the same realm as this bird at that time. And we, neither of us had bodies. And this was part of the I think the imprint that it has left on me, because it did not have body. It was a spiritual moment. So if we want to know what kind of an ancestor we will be, we might want to know it, but if we want to know, we just have to look into what we're thinking now, our thoughts right this moment, our words, and our physical actions. And then we will know what kind of an ancestor we're going to be. When we stop, look into ourselves and see what's going on, understand ourselves. Reflect on ourselves, listen to ourselves, listen to others. With the support of our ancestors, our spiritual ancestors, we will have the power to change our continuation right in the here and the now. It's not something in the future. It's taking place right here and now. Nabi Shalom, Wahdat Salam. And thank you all for being here and for the support. And just as I wouldn't be here today if you weren't here, this is part of our community body.